Hello and welcome back to the All Four Downs podcast, the show where we dive into an extra yard of the exciting world of the NFL and college football. I'm your host, Ovi Muniz, and I am delighted for all of you to join me today. Today, I have an awesome episode lined up. We're going to talk about the preseason top 25 that was published on Monday, the NCAA ruling on Michigan, and then we're moving on to the NFL rookie quarterbacks and which coaches are in the hot seat in the NFL. But did you know that in the last 6 college football seasons, neither team that started number one preseason ranking in the AP poll won the national championship? This season, the AP poll has Georgia Bulldogs as the number one team. The last team to start and finished number one was in 2017, the Alabama Crimson Tides. And before we get started, I would like to big shout out or send a big shout out to CMG Sports Central. Thank you for sponsoring this show. And of course, if you're interested in starting your own podcast, you could visit clovercrestmedia.com. But as for our website, CMGSportsCentral.com is our website for the latest major sports, blogs, podcasts, and much, much more. And I also want to give a big shout out to the VFW as they celebrate 125 years of carrying the torch to support the veterans and their families across America. So God bless all of our veterans out there. And man, we can't wait to start the new football season. College football, NFL, I mean, you name it, it's going to be awesome. All right, we're going to start out with first down, and we're going to talk about the top 25. Now, those of you that were paying attention to my show a couple of weeks ago, actually the first week of July, I started the podcast for our new season. And I just couldn't help but wait for August because, man, right after the 4th of July weekend, it's like I am excited. Like, I want to know more about football. What's going on? What happened after the spring training? What happened to all the gossips, the trades, and everything else, all the news and updates? What's going to happen for this upcoming season? Well, I mean, I narrowed everything down and I came up with this formula about how well did these colleges finish last year to the transfer portal to the recruitment and everything else. And I found myself with my own top 25, which is located on the left side. And my top 5 really is Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, and Notre Dame. On the other side, we have what we have is the AP poll that came out on Monday, August 12th. And they have Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. That is their top 5. Now, in comparison, look, I get it. I totally understand. In a sense, it's kind of weird to, try to judge teams or rank teams to where, listen, they moved to different conferences. Could they perform the same way? For example, Texas moving to the SEC. Now, under Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, he's 1-1 against Alabama, 1-1 against the SEC while he was with the Big 12. And as you can see, they made it to the college football playoffs, but they lost in the semifinals. But so did Alabama. So in comparison, I mean, if Nick Saban was still the head coach, would Alabama be ranked further up? It's just a question, right? I'm not really sold. I mean, listen, it's a toss-up, okay? And understanding that I have Texas, Alabama at 3 and 4, but respectively, what's going to happen is that Texas and Alabama, neither one of them, even Georgia, right? I got 3 out of the 4 teams in the SEC in the top 4, but only one is going to be in the top 4 come for the college football final rankings. Let's put it out there right now, okay? And so moving on forward on my top 25, you're going to see a little bit of changes there where everything's going to be reflected of the college football playoff brackets. And that's how I'm going to base my rankings. But as of right now, preseason, I do agree with Georgia and Ohio State. Ohio State have so many players returning back for everything that they have done. Players coming back, they want to make a statement. I think they're more butthurt about losing to Michigan than eventually trying to make it to the playoffs. Well, there is no excuse now making the playoffs because again, the expansion up to 12 teams guarantee we might see Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah. Um, other things that I noticed here, I have Ole Miss ranked number 10, while the AP polls have them number 6. It's still top 10. I give them credit. Ole Miss should have a wonderful year this year. Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. Now that one is intriguing to me because the fact that the way things were settled last year, the way they performed, they got DJ Uiagalelei now as the starting quarterback for Florida, but that's just the one man show. I mean, you got a guy that went to Clemson, didn't do so well, went to Oregon State, he improved, but then with all the changes that's going on, he went back to the ACC and picked Florida State. Now, does he have an advantage? I don't know, man. I have no idea. Don't know if that's going to be an advantage for DJ Uiagalelei. Will that really help out the Florida State? I'm not really sold just yet. That's why I still got him at 12. Okay. Surprisingly, yeah, I'm trying to look for Mizzou and see where they're at on the top 25 for the AP. I'm not really finding them. Oh, yeah, they're ranked number 11. However, I have them at 11 too. So we see eye to eye in all this. But the biggest question here for the ACC is how well is Clemson? Now, Clemson's ranked 14 in the AP polls. I have them at 13. So what a coincidence. We're seeing things eye to eye right now between the AP poll and my rankings. And especially the first game of their schedule will be against Georgia. And that's the biggest highlight in week 1 is Georgia versus Clemson in a neutral site. They say it's a neutral site, but then again, it's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. But based on my rankings and the AP poll rankings, I have to admit that the seeding of these conferences is going to look like this, with number 1 SEC, number 2 Big 10, then the Big 12, ACC, and then the American Conference. Maybe the Sun Belt Conference or the Midwest can make a difference, or the Conference USA. Let's see if they could boost up their teams and stuff and get in there. But I just don't see that very likely, especially the investment that the SEC and the Big Ten has done in the past season, that the top 2 teams will come from those conferences. All right, let's take a look at the top 4 teams in their schedule. The hardest schedule right now has got to be the Georgia Bulldogs. And I said it before first down, is that there has not been a number 1 team in the preseason since 2017 to finish number 1 and win the national championship. And as you look at Georgia, that will be beneficial should they come out victorious in all these games. But it's going to be pretty hard. They start off with Clemson, and then a few weeks later, they got to go visit Alabama. They have to go on the road to Texas. They have to go on the road to Ole Miss. And then, of course, their rivalry game in a neutral site against Florida. I'm not going to underestimate Mississippi State. Kentucky usually has a great defense. But, I mean, listen, if there's any schedule right now that is probably a bye week for Georgia Bulldogs, it's got to be UMass, okay? The second last game of their regular season. They're going up against UMass, which is the worst team in college football. Let's look at Ohio State. I mean, we don't know what's exactly improvement that has Iowa. Okay, I know that McNamara is a starting quarterback, the former Michigan quarterback. They have a new offensive coordinator. Could that offense make a big difference since Iowa's known for their best defense? Oregon versus Ohio State is going to be the game. It's going to define the moment of how true are these two teams, Ohio State and Oregon. Okay. Let's put it this way. If you look at Ohio State's schedule, besides Iowa, they got to play Michigan the last game. Really, there's no other teams right now that is worth watching. There's nothing very worthy of Ohio State because there's nothing really beneficial coming from the Big Ten. Now, with all the mergers and everything else, Ohio State's only playing Oregon. We don't see them playing USC. We don't see them playing anyone else. Okay. It's almost like the same boring schedule that they usually do every year. Okay. Penn State, the third best team of the Big Ten. I mean, what can I say there? We're ready to talk about Oregon, then facing Ohio State, but they're playing Oregon State, UCLA. They do play Michigan. On the last game of the season, they're playing Washington. Now, Washington has a new head coach. Could that rivalry build up for this season? Will Washington have a winning record? I mean, yeah, they made it, but their head coach went to Alabama. So will they be the same? And then there goes Texas. Texas in the SEC. They playing Michigan on their second week, their second game of the schedule. That's very important when we're deciding which conference is better than who. And they go back to back, Oklahoma and Georgia. And under Steve Sarkisian, he's 1-2 versus Oklahoma. Now, I need to figure out if this game is going to be in a neutral site. What if I believe it will be, and the Dallas Cotton Bowl. So there's a lot of history there. But I'm pretty excited. And then the last game of the series, we're going to see the rivalry come back between the Texas Longhorns and the Texas A&M Aggies. Now that's gonna be wild. And it says it's at Texas A&M. It'll be pretty awesome if it does be at College Station. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But if you look at his top four, I'm gonna tell you right now that Georgia having the hardest schedule. But when these teams start colliding to one another, which teams will fall out? Really, the top six. I'm going that far. All right, second down coming up. Jim Harbaugh. Wow. Biggest news, and it shouldn't even be news. It shouldn't be. Okay. Now, if Joe was on the show, my other co-host, he'll probably go on and lecture us and everything else about Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore and the whole organization of the University of Michigan. But here's the bottom line, is that this suspension or this outcast of Jim Harbaugh is not allowed to be around the NCAA for the 4 years or so. I think it's ridiculous. It's a big joke because you got a guy, Jim Harbaugh, that went and he's now the head coach of the NFL's Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. So who cares? And correct me if I'm wrong, he already suffered, or not was it suffer, he already dealt with 2 suspensions, 3 games in the first 3 of the season, and in the last 3 games of the regular season. And yet the team still prevailed. They made it to the playoffs, and they are national champions. Now, Jim Harbaugh is the honorary captain for the game opener between Michigan and Fresno State. That no longer is going to happen. Harbaugh mentioned that he is concentrating on getting the Chargers ready for the NFL season, but his parents will be present and represent him as they celebrate when they go ahead and show their national championship banner. But this is ridiculous, and this is still continuing. Now, this is a new season, and yet the NCAA still cannot finalize of their findings and narrow everything down. Harbaugh already got suspended. Who cares? Let it go. Michigan is moved on. Everybody else has moved on except for the NCAA. And the word is that nobody really respects the NCAA because of everything that's going on outside the NCAA. You got colleges moving from different conferences. We got the NEAL. I mean, we got everything else that's going on without the guidance of the NCAA. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and pick on Jim Harbaugh. Really? Come on. There's about over 130 teams, and yet you're going to narrow down to one. I'm sure there's plenty of violations going on, and you can find something in every school. But to continue on with Jim Harbaugh and the things that happened back in COVID, come on now. We're trying to get past COVID. Those excuses about COVID and everything else, man, leave it alone. It's a done deal. It's a very done deal, NCAA. Let's get with the program and let's concentrate on a new season of college football, shall we? Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the NFL. Check it out. Each week, starting on the NFL season, we're going to have our picks, and we're going to go ahead and introduce you to all the games. We're going to make our picks, our spreads, and everything else. And then we're going to try to help you win some money with the best 5 games or more or whatever it is the case may be, even in the fantasies. But it's all about sports betting coming up once the NFL season starts. So tune into our show every week, every Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and find out more about the NFL. But here's the NFL rookie quarterbacks this year. From the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix, the Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix Jr., the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, and the New England Patriots, Drake May. Now, 6 quarterbacks, 6 potential starters. However, which of these rookies will benefit this year? Which one of these 6 will actually be the rookie of the year? Now, that's a big accomplishment. And yet we're not talking about running backs, wide receivers, or defensive players and stuff like that. But out of these 6, they have the spotlight. And so during preseason, that's all they've talked about. But which one of these 6 are actually going to be starters this year? Now, here's my prediction. And the Chicago Bears, look, you let go of Fields. You traded him and everything, and you was locked on set for Caleb Williams. You better have him as a starting quarterback. You got nobody else in the Bears organization to lead in for the starting quarterback. Caleb Williams is your guy. And for what I saw, just only one game, he looked good. He looked just like he was at USC. But what happens when the real season starts? When the real hits start going? When everything else is faster than what is played right now? Is Caleb Williams the guy? Just saying. Let's just gonna throw it out there. Is he quicker than Justin Fields? Absolutely. He's not holding the ball. Yeah, he's doing what he normally does. He's feeling like himself. He's having fun. But again, when week 1 starts, let's see if he can still maintain that momentum. Same thing with the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. I predict that Bo Nix should be the starting quarterback. I know that the head coach had him at QB3. Yeah, but that was just something that the coach had to say. Yeah, he's number 3. All right, fair enough. He's the rookie. But Bo Nix has probably the best experience, the most experience than anybody else. Bo Nix started in Auburn. He went ahead and transferred over to Oregon. Did very well. Came out short. They could have made it to the college football playoffs, but they just couldn't pass Washington. But he was throwing it up under pressure and everything else. If there's any quarterback out of this list that could deal with pressure, that is Bo Nix. From the SEC to the Pac-12, come on now. I I strongly believe Bo Nix could be the rookie of the year. Minnesota Vikings, JJ McCarthy. Put your brakes on him. I wasn't a big fan of him in Michigan. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. He did enough. You're talking about a program that were running heavily, that got them to the promised land. McCarthy, I don't know, he wasn't the elite quarterback. Like he wasn't a Tom Brady. He wasn't. Matter of fact, I'll pick on you. Okay, he was none of these quarterbacks that's listed right there. If you call me crazy, go ahead and debate with me. But McCarthy is not the best quarterback, and I'm just surprised that he got drafted early in those rounds. I think he did get drafted in the first round, but I don't think he was that worthy. But with him being drafted, I still think Sam Darnold got a lot more to prove than McCarthy. Sam Darnold's been in several NFL teams already, and he hasn't even hit double digits in the NFL. Sam Darnold needs this. The Vikings needs this. And we'll talk about the head coach momentarily. The Atlanta Falcons have Michael Penix Jr. He could play his lights out. He could do whatever it is. It's not going to change for the money that they're spending on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback. This is the guy that left the Vikings and onto the Falcons. Okay? It is what it is. Right now, it is the Falcons in the NFC South. They need to win it, or it's going to be a big disappointment. And yes, the Falcons have a new head coach. We'll see what that brings to the table. But if there's anyone most experienced and have great weapons to work with, Kirk Cousins is your man. The Washington Commanders, new head coach, new coaching staff, everything's brand new, and you got yourself a quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Now, I don't know much about LSU quarterbacks. I know that the LSU wide receivers, those are the most talented. And yes, I know the LSU quarterback, and I got it, Burrow, who's with the Cincinnati Bengals. But Jaden Daniels is not Joe Burrow. He is not. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? Jaden Daniels loves to run the football. And usually lately what I've seen is quarterbacks that love to run the football really don't succeed. Okay? They're going to start knowing your game and then eventually going to contain you. Can you throw the ball in the pocket? Can you be diverse as a quarterback? Let's put it that way. Jaden Daniels still has a lot to prove in my eyes to see if he can handle it. But right now, he's looking good for one game. That's just it. It's only preseason. And the New England Patriots, Drake May. Now, Drake May will have that battle, but Jacoby Brissett has a big he's almost similar to Sam Darnold. But Brissett, I mean, he was drafted by the Patriots in 2016, and he was the backup for Tom Brady. But since then, he played for the Colts, the Dolphins, the Browns, the Commanders, and now he returns back to the Patriots. There's a lot there, okay? And yes, Drake May, yeah, you came from the University of North Carolina. I'm not that big on the quarterbacks in the ACC. I don't know what's so big about Drake May. Yeah, I got it, but that's the ACC. And it's not the SEC. It's not the Big Ten, and it definitely wasn't the Big 12. But they did enough for Drake May to say, hey, man, I'm a good quarterback. Okay, congratulations. I'd rather had Bo Nix in the Patriots than Drake May, but that didn't happen. But Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback, and let's see how well the Patriots will do. Because if the Patriots are not in the on the side of the winning record, then I could expect maybe Drake May to make his presence maybe a week 5 or week 6 or so, if there's no solid offense going on with the Patriots. All right, moving on to fourth down. Hot seats, and we'll start off with Robert Saleh. That's right. Look, man, I'm going to tell you right now, knock, knock. Who's there? Fire. You're fired. You're definitely fired. Look, you rely on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not your answer, ladies and gentlemen. The Jets need good coaches. They need they need a better general manager. They need a better staff that could get these guys in play. Okay. There's been a lot of mistakes. All right. They're not holding on to the talent. And if you rely on just one man, Aaron Rodgers, then you're definitely not going to have a great season. Okay. The Jets will suffer this year. And I'm predicting that the Jets don't make it to the playoffs this year. Okay. Now, they got a good defense and everything else, but it just seems like everyone else in that division in the AFC East, especially the Miami Dolphins, have made more improvements. And they got so much speed. And I need to know, does the Jets defense have enough speed to stop the wide receivers or the wide receiver core of the Miami Dolphins? They might maintain the Bills because it seems like they're heading toward a different direction. Okay. But with the Jets itself, I mean, look at the resume. 4-13 the first year for Robert. Then back-to-back seasons going 7-10. By adding Aaron Rodgers, do you think that's going to improve everything? Do you think that flips it to 10-7? There's got to be more to this. Okay. Robert Saleh and the rest of the staff, I mean, they're just not that great of coaches. That's why I say he's in the hot seat. If they don't make the playoffs, he's leaving. Doug Peterson, he had his Super Bowl time back in 2017, second year in the season, going 13-3 with the Philadelphia Eagles. They beat the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. That was awesome. Okay. But then they went on back-to-back season, 9-7, until the last season. They just fell apart, going 4-11-1. Now he's the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they went back-to-back 9-8. And very disappointing how they ended that season because the Jacksonville Jaguars were favorite to win the AFC South. And they were in first place. Then it started to tumble all the way down, allowing the Houston Texans to take that division. That cannot happen again this season. Should the Jaguars not make the playoffs, that will be the exit ticket for Doug Peterson. Matt Eberflus, the Chicago Bears head coach. Now, first season 3-14. This last season going 7-10. They finally got rid of Justin Fields. They got their quarterback Caleb Williams. Okay, now I understand that Caleb Williams is the rookie, but even rookies could play very well. Just look at the Houston Texans. They got to do better than 7 wins. The Bears got to do better. Should they fall, so will Matt. And lately, these days, they give you 3 seasons as like baseball. 3 strikes and you're out. That's what's going to happen. Lastly, Kevin O'Connell. Now, Kevin O'Connell first season went 13-4. Yeah, they were awesome. Oh, yeah. Made it to the playoffs. Didn't make it past the wild card. I got you. But they ended up going 7-10 the second season. But now you get rid of Kirk Cousins. We don't need Kirk Cousins. You drafted J.J. McCarthy. You got Sam Darnold there. I mean, you talking about a guy that's been in different teams already. He can't really like find his way. But there's high hopes of Sam Darnold for some reason. Man, I hope so. Because if they don't improve the record from 7-10, he too is going to be out of the game. You convince your staff that Cousins is not the guy for this team. You let him go to the Atlanta Falcons, and yet you're going to settle with Sam Darnold and maybe J.J. McCarthy. That is the plan. Okay, congratulations. There's your exit ticket if you cannot produce. Fair enough, right? Final whistle. This is it. The final whistle. And look, by the end of August, yeah, we're going to actually see some football, live football, starting with college football. And then by Labor Day, we're going to get to see the first games of the NFL week 1. And I'm very excited. Very excited. Who's your favorites? What's all going to happen? What's really going on? Am I going to hear more of the Dallas Cowboys? Am I going to hear more of how the Philadelphia Eagles, the way they ended their season, will it continue? Right? Will the, let's say, the Kansas City Chiefs, will they still be contenders? Will they build on that dynasty that they have there? With Joe Burrow healthy, is the Cincinnati Bengals are the ones? Is that the kryptonite of the Kansas City Chiefs? Are the Miami Dolphins finally going to do something this year? Adding Odell Beckham to that roster, I better hope so. Or how about this? How about my New York Giants? Are they going to do something? Because I have doubts already. The Detroit Lions, the biggest story, how they almost made it. How they almost made it to the promised land. Can the Detroit Lions go and win a Super Bowl? I'm loving that story. I really am. For the team that's always in the bottom, finally they're contenders. Can they get it done this year? That is the biggest story. Or will the Green Bay be a spoiler? There's just so much going on this season with the expansion of playoffs for college football to new rules, and yet what more surprises can we get in the NFL? I'm loving it. I know you guys are loving it, and it's only a matter of time, man. When the time comes, we're going to be in our couches, or maybe we'll be at those games and we're cheering on to our favorite team. Whether you're tailgating outside the park, cooking your steak, drinking some beer and everything, having a party, or you're in there eating your popcorn at home, kicking back, yelling, everything else. I mean, it's going to be exciting. It really is. I'm feeling it. I'm fired up. I'm fired up also visiting the UConn Huskies and their games this year. Yep. Maybe I'll make a trip to one of these other colleges that I've never been to just to watch a game. How about you? What are you going to do this year? I'm happy. I'm loving it. So every week now, all 4 downs, we're going to start hot. Once the season starts, we're making our picks. We're going to help you get rich. Oh, yeah. I'm Obi-Wan, and I can't wait for Joe Guard to join me on all 4 downs and Hector V for the NFL picks. It's all 4 downs. Please subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, or you can follow me on Twitter, or should I see the X, on OV_HHW show. Take care, everyone. God love some football.
That's Williams in motion. Low snap. Melrose stopped. Michigan makes a stand and comes up with a milestone playoff victory.
Trailing all night long. One last chance to advance to the national championship game.